ask. I don't have any questions right now.
If you have any, you can ask me, okay? When I'm
Okay.
telling you and you're not sure, then you can.
Chaitra,
Huh?
meanwhile, can you just give him an overview of, because I think he joined a bit late last time, so he was a little lost in the names.
Acha.
So,
Okay.
So just the main characters. I was making him watch a little bit Ramayana as well.
Yes.
So maybe later you share some videos or some links where what he can watch to just make. Okay.
Yes. Maybe I will show you this, Avyan. Or let's do it like this. Let's start the session and then what I will do is I will do like a small recap for you separately. You know?
Okay.
Yeah. Then I will
Thank
call you and I will tell you some names and give you where we are in the story at this point of time. But
Okay.
before that, let's start with the Guru Vandana. ॐ शुक्लाम्बरधरं विष्णुं शशिवर्णं चतुर्भुजं प्रसन्नवदनं ध्यायेत् सर्वविघ्नोपशान्तये where is my document? Give me a second. सरस्वती नमस्तुभ्यं वरदे कामरूपिणी विद्यारंभं करिष्यामि सिद्धिर्भवतु मे सदा कूजन्तं राम रामेति मधुरं मधुराक्षरम् आरुह्य कविताशाखां वन्दे वाल्मीकिकोकिलं मनोजवं मारुततुल्यवेगं जितेन्द्रियं बुद्धिमतां वरिष्ठं वातात्मजं वानरयुद्धमुख्यं श्रीरामदूतं शरणं प्रपद्ये यत्र यत्र रघुनाथकीर्तनं तत्र तत्र कृतमस्तकाञ्जलिं भास्पवारि परिपूर्णलोचनं मारुतिं नमत राक्षसान्तकं गुरुर्ब्रह्मा गुरुर्विष्णु गुरुर्देवो महेश्वरः गुरुः साक्षात् परब्रह्म तस्मै श्रीगुरवे नमः श्रीराम जय जय राम श्रीराम जय जय राम श्रीराम जय जय राम. Okay, so last week we saw that there were 4 princes born to the king of Ayodhya. The king of Ayodhya is called Dasharatha, and he had 4 sons now. After waiting for a long time he was not getting kids, but then he waited and he performed a big fire sacrifice. And after performing the fire sacrifice, Dasharatha got 4 sons, and these sons were named, the eldest one was named Rama, second son was named Bharata, and the third and fourth, who were twins, they were named Lakshmana and Shatrughna. Now,
Excuse me.
yes?
I think someone's in the waiting room.
I'm trying to, okay. Earlier they were not visible. Nikita has joined, okay. Namaskaram, Nikita. Is the presentation still visible?
Yes.
Okay. So the 4 princes were born. Rama was born in the month of Chaitra. So the Indian calendar, like we have January, February in the English calendar, this is the Gregorian calendar. In Indian calendar, in Indian timekeeping also, we have 12 months, and the first month is called Chaitra. On the 9th day of the month of Chaitra, in Punarvasu Nakshatra, Rama was born, and the next day morning Bharata was born. Next day evening Lakshmana and Shatrughna were born. Now these bright kids, they were growing up, and soon they came to the age when they had to be sent to the Gurukula for higher education. Now they have to go to school, right? Like you all go to school, if the kids go to school. Rama, Lakshmana, Bharata and Shatrughna, they were now to be sent to school. So Dasharatha performed their Upanayana Samskara. So this is one of the samskaras, one of the rituals that is done. In a human being's life, there are several samskaras that you have to give to the human being. At the time the child is in the womb of the mother, then after the child is born, you have the name keeping ceremony. Then the first time the child eats food, there is Annaprasana. Then before the child goes to the school, there is the Upanayana Samskara. So like this, the Upanayana Samskara was done. Who did the Upanayana Samskara for the kids? Sage Vashishta, who is the teacher, who is the guru of the Ikshvakus, that's the dynasty of Rama. Sage Vashishta performed the Upanayana Samskara. And after performing the Upanayana Samskara, the kids were sent to Gurukula. So all the kids, they went to live with their teacher. And as they were living with the teacher, they were taught all the Vedas and all the Upavedas along with several sciences. So in Indian schools back in the day, they were teaching 64 subjects to the kids. So what are the... I just let her in. Nikita, I just let her in. Nikita?
Yes, yeah.
Okay. I just want to check that you are in the room. Okay. So what are the different types of sciences that are taught to the kids? The first type of science that is taught to the kids is Dhanurveda. Dhanurveda basically, although Dhanush means bow, Dhanurveda refers to the science of warfare. So what constitutes an army? What are the parts of an army? So in ancient India, army constituted of 4 parts. That is elephants, chariots, horses and foot soldiers. These 4 parts together were known as Chaturanga Bala, 4-fold power. From this concept of Chaturanga Bala came the game of Chaturanga, which later became known as chess. So what you play today, chess, originated in ancient India with the game called Chaturanga. Yes, Avyan.
What does foot soldiers mean?
Those who are just walking, no? Those who are walking with swords and shields and everything. Those are foot soldiers. Then those who are riding horses are called cavalry. Those who are on chariots, they are called rathis. There are several categories of rathis also. And then those who are on elephants. These are the 4 categories of warriors. So,
Nothing.
Okay. So, this art, how to make a formation when you are in war, how to make a formation to defeat your enemy. There are several types of weapons. What are the different types of weapon systems? What is an astra? What is a shastra? What are the different types of astras? All this education is for part of Dhanurveda. Then apart from Dhanurveda, the princes were taught Ayurveda. Ayurveda is herbology. Basically, when you're in forests, in your jungles, when there is no medic available, when you're in situations of war, when you're wounded, how do you treat yourself? So what herbs can you find around nature? You guys also have these classes in school, right? When the teachers will take you into jungles and they will show you this plant is poisonous. You must not eat anything from this plant. This is a poison ivy. If the leaf of this plant touches you, you will feel very itchy. So this science is known as Ayurveda in ancient India, and this was also taught to the kids. What else was taught to the kids? Jyotish Shastra. Jyotish Shastra is astrology, not astronomy. Astronomy is different, astrology is different. The word Jyoti actually means light. Then why is the science of astrology known as Jyotish Shastra? Basically, when you're in a dark place and you light a lamp, that is called Jyoti, that lamp will eradicate darkness around that dark place, right? It will show you the way. So also, as human beings, none of us know what is going to happen in the future. We cannot see what is going to happen in the future. So Jyotish Shastra is like that light which can indicate to you what may be in store for you in the future. It is just an indicative science. It does not mean that it is set in stone. So you can, with your efforts and with your determination, oftentimes mend what is indicated to you. So this is why it is called Jyotish Shastra. This was also taught to the students in the Gurukula. Then what other sciences were taught? Vastu Shastra. Vastu Shastra in ancient India is the science of architecture. How do you build a house? How do you build a sacrificial hall? How do you build a temple? How do you build a palace? So different material, how to source these material, which wood, which types of wood has to be used, what should be the dimension of the bricks, what should be the dimension of the pillars, should be an octagonal shaped pillar, should it be a square shaped pillar, cube shaped pillar, all these are mentioned in the Vastu Shastra. When you are about to enter into a house, what sort of rituals should you do before entering to cleanse the energies of the house? When you set up the house, which part of the house should be in which direction? The Vastu Shastra describes all this in great detail. Apart from this, other sciences also which are practical for for kings and administrators. Of course, they were taught law and administration and speech, how to conduct yourselves. All this was taught. But another important science that was taught to the kids of a Gurukula is known as Samudrika Shastra. Samudrika Shastra basically is the science of body reading. So sometimes they will tell you, we will read your face, we'll look at your features, and we will tell you what kind of a personality you have, right? So back in the day, this science was known as Samudrika Shastra. For example, if you want to recognize somebody who is very wise and who is very realized, you must observe the proportion of their ears to their eyebrows. If their ears start in alignment with their eyebrows and are elongated until their jawline, then this person is a very great and wise person. So if you see statues of Buddha, especially the facial features of Buddha, you will see that his ears are in perfect line with his eyebrows, and he has very long ears that are almost falling until his neck. So that is the sign of a wise, realized soul. So by looking at facial features, by looking at body proportions, they are able to make out the personality of the person standing in front of them. Especially when you're a king, when you're an administrator, it is important to understand what kind of intent the person in front of you is carrying. So this was taught to them. There is another science, a very important science. It is called Shakuna Shastra. Shakuna Shastra is basically the science of reading the environment around you and understanding the indications that nature is giving. So for example, even today, sometimes they'll say if a black cat is crossing across the street when you're starting on a journey, then you have to stop for some time or you have to reverse your direction. This goes into the realm of superstition. But back in the day, how this was practiced is when somebody was coming out into the battlefield and in the sky they saw a certain bird, for example, a vulture or something like that, is flying ahead of the chariot of this commander who is coming into the battlefield, then that means that commander is going to fall in battle that day. And there are several good and bad signs like this. So you will see that if the clouds are formed in a certain manner, if the birds are chirping in a certain manner, if the wind is blowing in a certain manner, if animals are going from one direction to another direction, these are all signs that Mother Nature is giving you that something good or something not so good is about to happen. So they read all these signs when they are about to start a work or when they are doing work. When they are doing activities, they read all these signs as well. Basically, it teaches you to be aware of your environment, where you are in correlation to trees, in correlation to animals, and you are in constant communication with your environment. So all these sciences were taught to the students. And the princess were trained in all these arts and sciences, but it was clear from the very beginning to sage Vashishta that Rama was just a league apart. Rama was just something very, very special. Whatever was taught to him, he picked up instantly. Not only that, he was very well behaved with his teachers. He was always polite. He was always soft spoken to his teachers. And he especially enjoyed horse riding, elephant riding, and archery. He was acquiring capabilities in these fields of warfare like the teachers had rarely seen in those times. And soon he began to be known across, the city, across the Gurukula as a very, very capable archer. In due course, as the kids attained their education, 16 years passed since they had their Upanayana Karma and they started their education. And now these young boys were becoming of marriageable age. At 16 years after the Upanayana ceremony, Dasharatha one day, he called all his ministers into court and he proposed to the ministers, dear ministers, my dear sons Rama, Lakshmana, Bharata and Shatrughna, they have all been practicing and acquiring education in the ashrama of my great teacher sage Vashishta. And now they have completed their education. They are helping me in administrative tasks. Slowly they start to take some small administrative tasks from me. And it seems that the people of Ayodhya are especially happy with Rama and the way he tackles problems. So now I am considering that it is time for the 4 princes to get married. Now here I have to tell you this very interesting thing, that Rama and Lakshmana were one set, Bharata and Shatrughna were another set. So I told you last time that Bharata was absolutely the copy of Rama. Bharata looked exactly like Rama. And of course, by being twins, Lakshmana and Shatrughna also looked similar. Lakshmana dedicated every living moment of his to serving Rama. So there was nowhere Rama would go without Lakshmana. He would not eat unless Lakshmana was sitting next to him. He would not sleep unless he is seeing that Lakshmana has slept. And the same was with Shatrughna and Bharata. Bharata was always followed by Shatrughna, and both Lakshmana and Shatrughna were serving their older brothers at all times. They were completely dedicated to serving their older brothers. This is how the 4 princes had a very strong bond, and Bharata's love for Rama cannot be described in words. Bharata would do anything for his brother Rama. Rama also loved all his 3 brothers equally. He was like, everything Rama did, he did to protect his brothers. This was how affectionate the brothers were among each other. So as Dasharatha was discussing that he should arrange for the wedding of the boys, a great incident occurred in the kingdom of Ayodhya. A soldier came running into the court where Dasharatha was sitting with his council of ministers, and he said, "Oh great king, I have very important news for you." So Dasharatha looked at the soldier who has come running. Na? They said, "Who?" And he is looking at this soldier. He is sweating and he is looking very tensed. So Dasharatha said, "What happened?" So this person who has come, he is the main gatekeeper of the palace, the outer gate of the palace of Dasharatha. He is saying, "Oh king, the great sage Vishwamitra is waiting for you at the gates. So please, he wants to meet you. Please come and receive sage Vishwamitra." The minute Dasharatha heard the word sage Vishwamitra is waiting, he and his council of ministers, they all got up and ran towards the outer gates. Have you ever heard this? That the king is running out to receive a guest? Normally the king will say, okay, bring them in. And they will introduce themselves, they will do namaste to the king, and they will talk, sweet words to get the favor of the king. But here, the minute the soldier said, "Sage Vishwamitra has come," Dasharatha dropped everything. He is discussing the marriage of his princess. He dropped all that discussion and he ran to the gates. Why? Why is sage Vishwamitra so important? We will find out. So he ran and he said, "Oh, great sage, oh sage Vishwamitra, I am so happy that your footfall has happened in my kingdom." There and then he took a pot of water and he rinsed Vishwamitra's hands. He rinsed Vishwamitra's feet. He dabbed Vishwamitra's feet dry with his Angavastra and he very respectfully invited Vishwamitra inside his kingdom. Then Vishwamitra came into the court and the very first questions that Vishwamitra asks to Dashratha, he is not asking, King, how are you? I have come to tell you that I have this request. No. See how conversation between a great sage and a king is going on. It is all about dharma. So Vishwamitra says, Dasharatha, are you fine? Are your wives and children fine? Then Vishwamitra says, how is your kingdom? Is your kingdom fine? Are you collecting taxes in a reasonable manner, O Dasharatha? And how are your villages, not just the cities, how are your villages, your relatives and your acquaintances, are they all well? How are your vassal kings? Are they all doing well? Do they pay their tributes on time to you? Have you controlled the enemies of your kingdom? And are you performing all your religious duties like yajnas and homas, dana, dharma in a timely manner? These are the first few questions of Vishwamitra. You can ask, okay, king, how are you? How are your wives? How are your children? Why is he asking, are you collecting reasonable taxes? Because it is the responsibility of the sage. The king is answerable to the sage. The rishis are like auditors. If the king is making mistakes, they will come and they will control the king's behavior. You can't do this. This is harmful to the people. You cannot do decisions that are harmful to the interests of the people. So the king is not the supreme decision maker. Yes, he is taking care of the administration. He is making all the decisions. But above the king is also answerable to the sages because the sages are impartial. They are wise. Yes, Avyan, you have a question?
What's a sage?
A sage is basically a great wise rishi who is not accumulating wealth. Like they don't live among society. They live in forests and they live in small huts, hermitages, and their only duty is to practice meditation, practice rituals that will help them come closer to God. So they are not in the business of earning money, accumulating wealth and a big house and bank and car and all these things. They are away from material needs and they only practice meditation, ritual. So they are always in the study of scriptures so that they can come closer and closer to God. They're very, very wise people. I don't know.
What's a rishi?
Rishi also is a sage. A sage is in English and a rishi is in Sanskrit. So there are several categories of rishis. I will tell you about those also later. So then he's asking, are you collecting taxes appropriately? That means you must not tax your people a lot more, or you must not tax people too little that you don't have enough wealth in case of a rainy day, in case there is no rain sometime, or in case there is floods, or in case there is some natural calamities. You have to provide for the entire kingdom. So the amount of taxation you have is to be appropriate. He's asking, are you taxing your people properly? Are your vassal kings listening to you? It's not that you have made one rule in Ayodhya, sitting in Ayodhya, and somewhere else your vassal king is not following your rules only. It should not be like that. So are you monitoring that your vassal kings are listening to you? And your enemies, if the king is weak, then the enemy will attack. What happens when an enemy attacks? They will plunder the kingdom, they will loot, they will destroy all the development of the kingdom. So then the king has to be very strong and protect his borders, and the enemies have to be in control. So he's asking, have you controlled your enemies so that they don't plan attacks on your kingdom? Why is he asking all this? Because it is the responsibility of the sage to ensure that the king is performing his duties properly. Then Dasharatha answers, O Gurudev, by your grace, by your blessings, because of your goodwill and kindness towards me, everything is fine. The kingdom experiences rainfall seasonally. Rainfall is enough to have 4 crops in a year. My people are well fed. They have the resources to legitimately, not through robbery or by cheating others. They all earn their money through rightful means, and they all have good wealth. They are able to enjoy their life. Every person only dies after seeing their 4th generation. Nobody dies as a widow or after losing their wife. Everybody completes their full lifespan in my kingdom. Thanks to your blessings, everything is under control. Dasharatha reports to Vishwamitra. After saying this, now Dasharatha says, "Oh great sage, you now Dasharatha is talking to Vishwamitra. You are such a great sage that although you were born in a Kshatriya dynasty, you are born in a warrior clan, but because of your great capacity to perform meditation, you became a Brahma Rishi." Later I will explain what is this Brahma Rishi, Raja Rishi, different classes of rishis. You have become a great rishi. And now, because of you, not only me, but my ancestors are also blessed. Vishwamitra and Vashishta are very, very ancient. They have been on earth for many generations. Vashishta has taught to several generations before Dasharatha, and he has taught to generations after Dasharatha also. So also Vishwamitra, one of Rama's ancestors, is the great king Harishchandra, who never lied in his life. He never uttered a single lie in his life. His name is Raja Harishchandra. So Vishwamitra was present at the time of Harishchandra, and he gave Harishchandra a very difficult test. So that's why the kings of Ikshvaku dynasty, they are scared of Vishwamitra. He is a very, very strict rishi, and if you displease him, he will give you a curse. Once Vishwamitra has uttered a curse, there is no escaping. Finished. Everything is gone. So the kings of Ikshvaku dynasty hold Vishwamitra in great respect and fear. So that is why Dasharatha is saying, you have not only blessed me, but you have also blessed my ancestors. So I request you to command me. How is it that you've had to leave your ashrama, which is in the forests, and you have come all the way to the city? You could have summoned me. You could have sent a messenger and told me to come to you. But you have come all the way to me. That means there is some important task. Whatever it is that you require, it is a blessing for me to perform what you ask me to do. I have the good fortune of fulfilling your commands. So please tell me what is it that brings you here, and I will fulfill whatever it is that you ask for. These are Dasharatha's words to Vishwamitra. Now, in this dynasty of Dasharatha, which is called as the Ikshvaku dynasty. Ikshvaku dynasty, why this is called? Because the first king who established this kingdom, his name is Ikshvaku. He is a descendant of sun, Surya. After the person who established this dynasty, it became known as the Ikshvaku dynasty. In this dynasty, several great kings have come. We will learn about some of them in the next classes. And one of those great kings was King Raghu. He was such a great king who was a part of this line that the entire name of the dynasty took the name of Raghu. It became Raghu Vamsha. Vamsha is lineage, the lineage of Raghu. He was such a great king that he became the Vamsa Karta. When somebody is so great, they have accomplished such great things, then the entire clan is known by their name. So, you guys, when you do any activity, you must aim to become like that. Whatever activity you do in life, you must do it to such an extent that your parents will be known. Falana is Harsh's mother, Harsh's father, or Avyan's mom is going, Avyan's dad is going. You must behave like that. You must conduct yourself like that. So, then, in this dynasty of Raghu, there is a rule. It is not a rule, but they have practiced this. All kings that have come in this dynasty, they have practiced this rule. They have kept this rule, imposed this rule on themselves, that when they say something, that word shall be fulfilled. That means, if I have said that tomorrow again I will take Ramayana class, then at 9:30 in the morning I will not send a message, sorry, I cannot take class today because I have some last minute work. That will not happen. If I have said that there will be class at 11:30 tomorrow, it will be there. One person comes or 10 people come, the class will go on. The kings of Raghuvamsa have kept this rule. If they speak something, they will do it. They will not go back on their word. So the word of a Raghukula, a king of Raghuvamsa, is equivalent to a promise. It cannot be broken. Because if you break it, you are going to bring a bad name to all the kings that have come in this dynasty. All their good work will go down the drain if one person breaks that rule. When Dasharatha talks like this, without even knowing what Vishwamitra is about to ask, Dasharatha has already made a promise that I will do whatever you ask me to do. Now he cannot go back. This is exactly what Vishwamitra is expecting out of Dasharatha. Vishwamitra is pleased. It's not easy to please Vishwamitra because he is a very strict sage. He is very Gambhira. Gambhira is very serious. His words are very, strong. He doesn't like to use soft words. He uses very strong words. Vishwamitra says, yes, this is what I expected of a king of your dynasty. This is what I thought your behavior shall be. And now, see how Vishwamitra speaks. Vishwamitra says, let's see where we are in the presentation. Yes, here he comes. Very well. Good job, Dasharatha. You have fulfilled my expectation that a great king like you will speak like this. You have lived up to my expectations. Also, now Vishwamitra says, in my ashrama, the ashrama of Vishwamitra is known as Siddha Ashrama. Siddha means fulfilled. What objective you sat out with at the beginning of your yajna, that has been fulfilled. You have attained. That is why it is Siddha. That ashrama where Vishwamitra is living in the forests, it's known as Siddhashrama. Diya, yes, you have a question?
We can't see the slides.
Oh, okay. Let me show you. Can you see it now?
No.
No? Give me a second. It's a bit slow. Just bear with me. Do you see it?
Nope.
Still
The
no?
screen is shared, but it's like it hasn't loaded yet.
It's coming maybe.
presentation.
Should come in a second or two.
Okay.
Now we can see it.
See it now?
Yep.
Okay, I'll just go back to the previous slide. So Vishwamitra at the gates of Ayodhya. Now he has come inside and now Vishwamitra is speaking. What is Tell me when the presentation is disrupted, okay? When you can't see the presentation, you tell me. Can you see the presentation now?
Yes.
Very good, okay. So he says, in my Siddhashrama, it is still there. The Siddhashrama in today's Naimisharanya region of Uttar Pradesh, nearabouts to Ayodhya today, it's still there. The Siddhashrama is still there. So I am performing a certain vrata. Vrata is a ritual that you perform over several days. And as I perform this ritual, when I am about to complete this ritual, two Rakshasas, their name is Maricha and Subahu, they come, and towards the end of this ritual, they pour blood, filth, bones into the sacrificial fire. You see it here. This is Maricha and this is Subahu. They are Rakshasas basically. Rakshasas are demons. They are pouring all this into my sacrificial fire, and then my yajna, my ritual becomes ineffective. It has lost all its utility. It's of no use. And now I have to start all over again. And they are doing it every time I start the ritual. I do full day the ritual. Full day, me and my disciples, we sit and we do the yajna, we do all the mantras and we complete all the rituals. Just as we are about to finish, these two Rakshasas come with their army and they disrupt my sacrifice like this. And now it is becoming unsustainable. I am not able to stop these two Rakshasas. So what I want, you may ask me, oh Dasharatha, that I am a great sage and I have several superpowers. So these great sages, they have several powers. They have several powers. I will describe these powers later. You can ask me why I am not I'm not cursing these Rakshasas, or I am not defending myself against these Rakshasas. Because as I have taken this vrata, as I have started this diksha, then I must always remain equanimous in my behavior. That means if somebody is irritating me, I should not get too angry. Or if somebody is making jokes, I should not get too silly. Or if some happy news has come, I should not get too excited. I must always remain in a calm, stable state of mind. That is why I am not able to curse these Rakshasas. I am not able to fight off these Rakshasas. Now what do I want, you ask? What I want? I know that you have a son. And this son of yours, I know that he is very handsome and he is very reputed already as a great archer. I know that his name is Rama. I want you, O Dasharatha, to send your son Rama with me, because only Rama, your son, is capable of killing these two demons. Why? Why only Rama is capable of killing? Because he has a divine aura. Also, because I am going to protect Rama. Just few minutes ago, I told you that Rama at this point of time is a very young boy. So when the age of Rama is discussed, Dasharatha is saying, my son is only 16 years old. 16-year-old boy, how you are asking me to send? But Vishwamitra, before Dasharatha gets a chance to reply to Vishwamitra, Vishwamitra is saying, send your son, because I know your son has a divine aura and he will be protected by me. Now, Vishwamitra is going to give Dashratha a lollipop. Vishwamitra knows that Dashratha will not be willing to send his son. Dasharatha's life forces are in Rama. In the next few shlokas, Dasharatha is going to say, I am now, at this time when Vishwamitra is asking Dasharatha to send Rama, the age of Dasharatha is 60,000 years old. I am now 60,000 years old. After a lot of efforts and after doing this yajna and that yajna, I got sons. And you are asking me to give my sons. Vishwamitra knows that Dasharatha is not going to send Rama. So before Dasharatha can refuse, Vishwamitra is giving Dasharatha a lollipop. What is Vishwamitra saying? He is saying, not only I will protect him, not only I will protect Rama your son, but I will also give him the knowledge that will make him famous in all the three worlds. Not only in all the three worlds, in all future time, people will remember your son. I am going to give him so much knowledge. Another thing Vishwamitra is saying, these two demons, Maricha and Subahu, they will not be able to face Rama. Because no one but Rama has the ability to defeat these two Rakshasas. These two Rakshasas have accumulated a lot of bad karma. And they are very powerful, very, very powerful. But they cannot defeat Rama. Why is Vishwamitra saying this? Some time ago I said the way great sages or rishis observe Rama and the way normal human beings like Dasharatha see Rama is going to be very different. Dasharatha is looking at Rama, oh my 16-year-old son, he is just a little boy, he is so small, how is he going to fight those big muscular Rakshasas? They also have superpowers, they will become invisible, they will change their shape, they will do all kinds of Maya Yuddha. How is my small boy going to fight against these powerful demons? This is how Dasharatha is going to look at Rama. But how is Vishwamitra looking at Rama? See this shloka in the Balakanda. Aham vedmi, Vishwamitra says, Aham vedmi, Mahatmanam Ramam Satyaparakramam, Vashishto api Mahateja, Ye cheme tapasi sthitaha. Aham vedmi. Vishwamitra says, I am the knower. Vedmi means with, means to know. In Sanskrit, the alphabet with equal to know. Aham vedmi, I know. There is a great Mahavakya, where at the end of all Vedic knowledge there comes Vedanta, and Vedanta has some Mahavakyas. One of these Mahavakyas is Aham Brahmasmi. Aham Brahmasmi is I am that. So I don't know if you guys have seen Mahavatar Narsimha movie. In that Mahavatar Narsimha movie, in one particular scene, Prahlada is praying to Lord Narayana to show himself to him. So Narayana lifts Prahlada in his arms and Prahlada looks at Narayana, Sri Mahavishnu. And after that, when he goes back to his kingdom, as he is going back to his kingdom, wherever he looks, in trees, in plants, in animals, in birds, wherever he looks, he sees Vishnu. He sees Vishnu everywhere. This state of mind, when you can see that Parabrahma Tattva, it's not at this stage when a person has evolved to such a high intellectual state, then the devotion towards God is not in the form. You don't need to see God in a form. It becomes abstract. It becomes a substance. You see it everywhere, in everything. In this state, this Mahavakya comes, Aham Brahmasmi. What has the sage realized? That this, what is inside of me and what is spread everywhere in this cosmos is the same thing. There is no I and there is no you. There is no separation. That separation wall has broken. They have realized it. They feel it. Just like inside battery there is energy, inside the cables there is energy. You can't see that energy, but when you turn on a TV you see the image. The image is proof that there is energy. Light is proof that there is energy. So this entire cosmos is proof that Parabrahma Tattva exists. That Parabrahma Tattva is the energy that is causing this entire cosmos. When you realize this, at that stage you come to Aham Brahmasmi. I am that. I have become that. So here Vishwamitra is using that Aham from Aham Brahmasmi. Aham Ved, me. I am knower. What do I know? Not only I. Vashishto api. Vashishta also knows. And so too Tapasi Sthitaha. All the other great sages like Kashyapa, like Vamadeva, who are all here, they also know. What do they know? Mahatmanam Ramam. That Rama is that Mahatma. This word Mahatma is used for Vishnu in Purusha Sukta. So basically here Vishwamitra is indicating to Dashratha that your son Rama, who you are thinking, oh my 16-year-old son, he is not just a 16-year-old son. He is the cause that is running this entire cosmos. He is the creator. And I know this, Vashishta knows this, and all the great sages who are here, they know this. So the way a rishi is looking at Rama now, you see, they are looking at Rama as the Parabrahma Paramatma in a human form. How rare is this? How difficult is this to get such an opportunity? Vishwamitra knows. That's why he is craving to see Rama. From the time he has come, he is saying, send Rama with me, send Rama with me. That craving to see that Parabrahma Tattva in a human form is making him act like this. And now Vishwamitra says, your son is Mahatma. He is not just a small 16-year-old boy. Send him. And then one more lollipop Vishwamitra is going to give. He says, if you let me take him, I will give him knowledge of all great weapons and I will make him famous for all times to come. After listening to the words of Vishwamitra, first Dashratha almost faints. See this. Dashratha is literally swooning. He cannot believe that Vishwamitra is asking for his young son. Dashratha says, Hey Prabhu, O great sage Vishwamitra, if you want, I will come. I will not come alone. I will come with one Akshani of an army. An Akshani is a unit of an army. In today's times, we have one battalion or one, I don't know what other units are there, no? Back in the day, they had Aksharnis. They measured armies in Aksharnis. So, an Akshani is supposed to have all 4 units. It's supposed to have foot soldiers, it's supposed to have horsemen, it's supposed to have charioteers, and it's supposed to have elephants. The exact number I will give you later. In next week's presentation, I will put up a chart on this. Dashratha says, not just I alone, I will come with one Akshani of army, and then I will protect your ritual. If need be, I will fight against these Rakshasas and I will protect your ritual. But please don't ask me to send Rama, who is just a 16-year-old boy. Just now he has completed education with sage Vashishta and he has come. How then are you asking me to send? He doesn't know anything. He has never fought. He has just practiced against stationary targets in his Gurukula. He has never fought any war. Forget war, he has not fought a battle. How do I send my son? I am now 60,000 years old. After several yajnas and homas, finally I got children. Please don't ask to take my son. If you want, I am willing to go with you. Then Dashratha asks a follow-up question. Exactly who is this Maricha and Subahu? Who are they? And where have they come from? Who is their ancestor? Which family do they belong to? And who is their commander? I want to know. Dashratha asked this question. So then Vishwamitra answers Dasharatha's question. Vishwamitra says, "Oh, you know this great Rakshasa called Ravana, who is the son of the sage called Vishravaso. The father of Ravana, his name is Vishravaso, and his grandfather's name is Pulastya. Now, when this creation was, when this creation came into existence, Brahma decided that he needs to have some great sages. And so, in his mind, Brahma willed, okay, I want to create some great sages. And one of the sages that got created like this, his name is Pulastya, sage Pulastya. This sage Pulastya had a son. His name is Vishravas. And this Vishravas, one Rakshasi by name Kekasi, she is the daughter of another Rakshasa called Sumali. So this Sumali, he was defeated in battle by the Devatas, Indra, Varuna, Agni, Vayu. There was a big war between the Rakshasas and Devatas, and in that war, the Rakshasas were defeated by Devatas. So this Sumali, he fled to Patalaloka, to the Netherland, underneath the earth. Harsh is laughing when I said Netherlands. Not Netherlands here in Europe, under earth. So there are some realms under earth and there are some realms above earth. Patalaloka is supposed to be a realm under earth. So he escaped there, and there he amassed a few of his ministers, and they started to scheme these devatas. It's impossible to defeat these devatas, so we need a son who is as bright as the devatas. For that, one of our daughters has to marry a great sage. If she marries a great sage and has a son with that sage, this son can be as bright as the devatas. So then he sent his daughter, whose name is Kekasi, to go and find a great sage on earth and get married and have a son with this great sage. So this Kekasi, she took a nice form and she came to earth and she started looking for a great sage. Then in one forest she found sage Vishravaso, and then she went to sage Vishravaso. These sages, they are known as Prajapatis. It is their duty to populate the earth. So when a lady approaches them and proposes marriage, they cannot refuse the lady. So when this Kekasi came to sage Vishravaso and said, please marry me, I want to be your wife, he accepted her as his wife. In due course, they had a son. And this son, his name is Ravana or Dashagriva. This Ravana, because of his accumulation of great spiritual energy, he is now troubling all the three worlds. He is terrorizing basically the three worlds. This Maricha and Subahu are commanders of Ravana. When Vishwamitra said Maricha and Subahu are commanders of Ravana, Dasharatha said, oh great sage, please forgive me. Please, I take back all my words. Neither I will come, nor my son will come, nor my army will come. Thank you very much. So let's stop here. And next week, I will tell you what happened, how Vishwamitra reacted at the words of Dasharatha, and how sage Vashishta indicated this entire situation. Okay? Any questions? If there is no further questions, we will stop here and we will all meet next week. Jai Shri Ram.
Jai Ram. Bye.
Bye.
Jai Ram.